this video, we're going to be building the Solidity Stock Prediction Dapp with Next.js. We're going to be using Infura to build this app on the Ethereum blockchain. You're going to be able to make bets on whether a stock price will be going up or down. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's get started as usual with the CLI tool. So let's just run it, email name, and this is the Solidity Prediction Dapp. So while it gets started, usually Infura, sign up. If you haven't done it already, do that already. Create an account, they are amazing. And go ahead, create a Web3 API, just name it whatever you want to. In this tutorial, I'm gonna name it Prediction Dapp. And so there's your API key. We're gonna be using that later. And then our CLI tool is about to finish. So once it does, it will open your VS Code automatically for you. So this is pretty much it. This is your context file, and let's move on to the next step. Okay, so let's go ahead, create our contract, which is going to be stockprediction.sol. And as usual, we need our SPDX license, which is going to be MIT, and the Solidity version will be 0.8.0. And then let's go ahead, start creating our contract. So initially, we're just going to create all the states, variables, and structs that we're going to be using in this project. So we're going to have an owner, which is going to be address. We're going to have a uint, which will be the prediction start timer, and obviously an end timer. And we're going to have a current price. And we're going to be using int instead of uint. And that's because int can be negative and not just positive. Now we're going to create our mapping. We're going to be mapping addresses to ints. That's going to be the bets. And then we're gonna create an array of addresses, and those will be the bets. And then another mapping when we're going to be mapping addresses to uints, and that will be the bet amounts. So basically what we're doing here with these bettings is the people who are betting, we're going to be mapping the ID of the bet to these addresses, and then the amount, how much they betted, will be also mapped to these addresses. Now let's go ahead and create a last check time and a is betting active variables as well. The last one is going to be a bool. First one is going to be a uint. Then we're going to also save the last winner. And now we're going to get on to make the structs. So the first one is going to be the bet, where we're going to be saving the bettor's address and the amount. So it could be positive and negative as well. And then the bet info, again, the address, the amount, or the bettor address, the amount, bet amount. And we're also going to create a constructor. So the owner initial is obviously going to be the message sender, so whoever deploys the contract. And then the prediction end time will be block timestamp plus 5 minutes, meaning after the contract is deployed, people have 5 minutes to bet on the app. And then the is betting, and then the betting by default is going to be false. All right, so that's it for now. Let's move on to the next step. Check. Okay, so now we're going to fetch all the bets that have currently been made. So we're going to create a function, get all bets. It's going to be a public function that will return a bet info array from the memory. So we're going to create a all bet array that will have a bet info struct. And now we're going to go through and loop through all the bettors. So all we're going to do is we're just going to save all the attributes into all bets. So what we're doing is for bettor amount and bet amount, we're literally just grabbing all the data from every single bet. And because we're later going to be saving them, that's how we're going to be getting them. So that being said, let's go ahead and test it. And the usual drill, open up Remix in your VS Code. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to go ahead and deploy this contract. Now, let's see, what do we have? For some reason, it didn't deploy. Oh, and that's because there is a typo on line number 10. So after fixing that, let's see what we got. And we should get a empty array. And that is perfect. If you get that, you are good to go. Okay, so now we're gonna make sure that users will be able to get started betting, because if you remember, by default the is betting active is false. So let's go ahead and make a function and call it start prediction, and it will have an argument that will be an int, which will be current price. Let's close that, and it will be a public function. So it will need to be the owner who starts it, because obviously only the owner is supposed to start these bets. And we're gonna set the current price to the current price that we pass in. After that, we're gonna go ahead and set the prediction start time to the block's current timestamp, and the end time to whatever is 5 minutes after that. So let's set that. And after that, we're gonna set the is betting active to true. Now, next up, we're gonna create a function which will be enter bet. That will allow the users to make a prediction. And so that's what we're gonna be passing in. It'll be a public payable function and will require that the current timestamp of the block is less than the prediction end time, meaning the prediction has to be active. Otherwise, we're gonna send a error message. Now, we also require that the user sends at least 0.0001 ETH. Otherwise, like, it's just such a low amount of money that we don't take those bets seriously. So that's the bet amount. And we're gonna save that to the message sender in the mapping. And we're gonna go ahead and push the bettor or bettor's address into the bettor's array. And we're also gonna map the value to the message sender's address, so the current bettor's address. And with that said, let's move on to the next step. All right, so now we're gonna make a couple of helper functions that we'll be using later on. So that's where we're gonna be finalizing the prediction. Don't worry about that part, we'll figure it out. So helper functions. We're gonna have one that resets the last winner, and that's all it's going to do. So it will be a public function, and obviously the owner has to call this function, and literally all it's going to do is it's going to say last winner equals address 0. Done. All right, next up, we're going to have an is prediction over function that literally just checks whether the current block timestamp is more than the prediction end time, meaning have we passed the end of the prediction, and will return true or false based on whether it's true or not. Now we're going to also have one that returns the pool amount, which is literally just the balance of this current address. And we're going to have one that helps us find the absolute difference between two numbers. So we're going to be passing in two ints, one of them x and y, and then we're going to see which one is bigger than the other, or larger than the other. And then if x is larger, then x minus y. If y is larger, then we're going to send back y minus x. So that's literally it. All right, so let's finalize the prediction. So we're going to have a finalize prediction function, which will take in the current price. Now, we'll need to make sure that the block timestamp has to have already when we finalize the prediction, the block timestamp has to have already passed the prediction end time. Otherwise, we will have to throw an error. And we also want to make sure that the betting is active at this point, because only active bettings can be deactivated, if you know what I'm saying. Now, we're just going to initialize a couple of values here. So just like in a regular sorting algorithm, we're going to create a closest prediction state, which is just going to be the first bet. Who cares? And then we're going to go to closest distance, and we're going to calculate it, and we're going to pass in the current price and the closest prediction in there. And we're also going to set the winner. Now, this is where the trick comes in, because this is where we're going to loop through all the bets, and we're going to update these closest prediction, closest distance, and winner based on whether the current distance or the current bet's distance is less than the current closest distance. So that's what we are doing here in this for loop, and then we're going to update the winner as well. You want to also make sure that the winner is always payable, because you cannot reset it later. You can, but there are like complications with that, which we don't want to go into right now. After that, we want to make sure that the pool is not empty, meaning at least there is one bat that has a valid value. Now after that, we'll also make sure that the winner is not just an address 0. And if those two are good to go, then we're going to transfer the pool's balance and everything in there to the winner. And then we're basically going to update the last winner and then just reset everything. So prediction start time, prediction end time, current price is betting active, and everything. We just go and reset it. And we're going to do the same thing with bettors as well, but we have to do it one by one. So we got to loop through that. And once that is done, we're just going to reset the bettors array as well. And that is finalizing the prediction. Let's move on to the next step. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and deploy this contract. So let's take a look at what the first step will be. So let's go ahead and just connect to our Infura network, and the project should show up. If you don't have it, just sign into your Infura extension and you should be good to go. Now let's go ahead, deploy again with the extension, and then just select the girl in the network. That'll be the easiest, and I believe the only one that's still working. So let's see what do we got. All right, so now it says that in line 91, there's a uin instead of a uint. So let's fix that. Should be good. Try again. Okay, now message value. Something's not okay there. Let's check it out. Let's see what do we got. Oh, we got to put in ether. Let's try again. Now the current price is not okay on line 61. It would be a great idea if we defined it. So let's do that. Let's try again. Let's see if it finally works. And it looks like there's a weird error going on. So we actually took some time to figure it out. And basically on Infura, you shouldn't really put space in the project name, because that could cause errors. So let's just remove the space, and then we should be good to go. Disconnect from it, reconnect, and you should be good. And now if you deploy again, it will go through and it will be perfect. So once you're done, there is your contract address. And if you see that, you're good to go. That's it. Let's move on. Okay, so if we're done deploying, we're going to go ahead and copy that address and then just paste it into our contract.js. So that way it is updated and we should be good to go. Now, one more thing you want to do is go into your build contracts and then just copy the file over into your utils folder. That's your ABI. No need to worry about it. It just helps you interact with the contract itself. Okay, so let's start fetching those bets. So let's just go ahead and spin up our app. So this is how it looks like. Everything works. MetaMask wallet connects. Super nice. Changing wallets. Nice. Okay, let's go into our context. I have a couple of pre-made functions for you, so you can just go ahead and fill those out or fill out the blanks, and then you're good to go. So inside of fetch bets, there is a try catch function. It'll start working in there. So we're going to go ahead and pull in the contract using the create contract object function that we already imported for your convenience. So there it is. Super nice. It already uses the address that you just popped in there. So that's cool. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say bets equals wait contract dot get bets. So we're already using the contract that we just freshly deployed. So that's nice. And we're going to say formatted bets, and we're going to loop through all the bets, and each bet, what we're going to return is we're just going to organize them into like objects. So we're going to get the address, the amount in a string, and we're going to get the bet amount. Because it's a big number, we'll have to format it into string so that we can convert it into ETH. Once we convert it into ETH, we'll need to convert it to a number so that we can fix it and make sure that it only has 2 decimals. So that's a little nasty. Just pause the video and then copy. And now we're going to update the use state, and we're just going to go ahead and console log it so that we can double check that it works. And inside our use effect that is getting fired every time is betting active is being changed, we're just going to fetch the bets, and that should be good. So let's take a look at how it looks like. So I'm going to open up my console, and there it is. There's the array that is empty. So that means the fetching works. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and fetch the owner and the pool. So let's go ahead and start filling that out. So usual, let's get rid of the contract, and then the owner will be await contract.owner, and then we're going to go ahead and just update the use state. And then again, we're going to run that function every time the is betting active is being updated. We also want to go ahead and console log it. Let's go ahead, test it out. And there is the contract owner address, which is because it's my wallet because I just deployed it. All right, let's move on to the next step, which is fetch pool. It's going to be again, there's your function. Just import contract, and then pool will be contract that get pool amount. And then we're going to convert it to ETH and then update the price. So let's take a look at how that looks. Also, you want to fire it off in the use effect, and there should be your big number. There should be your amount. So with that said, we are pretty much good for this step. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of a complicated stuff. So there is this other use effect. So basically what we're going to be doing is we're going to run it every 3 seconds, and we're just going to check if the betting is over. So let's just do that real quick. So that's your function to check if the betting is over yet or not. And if it is, then we're going to go ahead and grab the is over from the is prediction over from the contract. And basically we're just going to go ahead and reset the timer, clear the timer, and we're going to go ahead and finalize the betting, stop everything where it's at, and grab the latest winner. That way we can start sending the money to the winner. So that should be pretty much good to go. However, if the betting is not over, that's the part that's being written right now, then we're going to go ahead and reload this same exact functionality again and come back to it again in 3 seconds. So that is pretty much all it is. Let's just add a couple of console logs just so we can make sure that everything is Gucci and we can see what's happening. So we're going to add checking status and all that stuff. And there it is. It shows up that we are checking the status. Now let's add one more thing, which is just let's just console log the is active. So we should see a bunch of falses every 3 seconds. And there it is. It shows up and it keeps updating. So with that said, let's move on. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and implement the start prediction. So usual, grab the contract from the usual place, and we're going to have another contract interaction. So we're going to call the start prediction function in there. So we're going to turn the coin price into weight. So we're going to attach basically 18 decimals and set the gas limit to 80,000. Now we're going to go for it and get the receipt. So the usual result.wait and console log that just to make sure the contract interaction went through. And every time we start the prediction, we want to go ahead and reset the last winner. So we're going to do that as well. So let's go ahead and test it out. And if you can see in a little bit, I just hit the start betting button, and the contract interaction is going through, and confirm. And now it's pending, and it will finish in a little bit. So let's see, what do we got? And there you go. The betting right now is active. And basically, I'm not going to bore you with that, but I was sitting around there for 5 minutes. And as you can see, at the end, the betting is over. So that seems to be working as well. Let's go ahead and now enter the bet. Okay, so let's finalize the prediction right now. So what we're going to do is we're just going to call the contract function that we've already written. So we're going to say finalize betting or finalize prediction, and then we're going to have to pass in the current coin price so that the algorithm can decide who won and who didn't. And obviously in weight. So we're going to set the gas limit to 200,000. So that's good. And let's see what do we got. So if everything is okay, the automation or the app should pop open our MetaMask, and as you can see, there it is. Now we're gonna go ahead and hit confirm on it, and so now it's just going through and the funds will be transferred in a second, and we're gonna see in the console how the betting is over. And there it is. Now it says false, so that means the betting is over. That only means one thing, that we have to now fetch the last winner. And so we're going to do that with the usual contract interaction, and we're going to say contract.lastWinner. That will fetch it for us, and then we're going to set it to the use state. So we're going to truncate it, so that way we don't see like the entire big address. We're just seeing like the important part, the beginning and the end. And we're going to run that function, and that should in theory go through. So let's go through the whole process again. So I'm going to go ahead and start a new betting, hit confirm on it, and it will get started in just a little bit. Now the betting is active, so that's good. Let's make some bets here. Now let's use a different account and make another bet, and let's see what happens. So you want to make sure that when you're testing it, your bet is different from two separate accounts. So that's something important to keep in mind. And now let's use the admin account again to finish the betting, and it will pop open automatically. We cut it out, but basically we set it out. And so there it is. The funds will be confirmed. If you can see, the funds are sent, and there it is in the middle. The last winner is being updated. So that is the app. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you make a lot of use. I hope you got a ton of value out of it. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.